Hey everyone, welcome to Not Financial Advice, a channel where we definitely don't give out any financial advice. Today I'm going to be talking about this post I saw where a 19-year-old is needing financial advice. They say, I'm an undergraduate engineering student and I have some money saved up and I plan to save a bit more. I want to know all about finance and money management, so I've been starting to read up on this sub. To save this money for short term, because other expenses will come up as I graduate university where I'll need this money, should I be using high interest savings accounts, different tax advantaged accounts, investing in ETFs, or all of the above? Not sure where to begin for saving and growing. Also, is it best to gain knowledge individually rather than give your money to a financial advisor? So this was a really interesting question and a lot of really good kind of little questions in there. And I wanted to kind of give my 2 cents on the topic. And I wanted to kind of take this from the angle of what financial advice would I give to my 18, 19, 20-year-old self? So I had a couple of points here. The first one was that I strongly advise that you test out investing either in like a paper trading account or with a small amount of money at risk. When I was in high school, before I turned 18 and could even open my own account, I had my mom open an account for me, and I put $10,000 that I had saved up through the past 2 years of high school, doing lifeguarding, doing various other jobs here and there. I think I ended up having about like $15,000 in savings. So I really put most of my money into that investment account. And what did I do? I bought penny stocks in healthcare companies. Now, as a much more mature investor, and having learned my lesson after the money doubling and then losing 90% of its value, I learned a very difficult lesson. But I think that was a very important lesson to learn. Without learning that lesson, I don't think I would be as savvy as of an investor as I am today, and I don't think that I would be as careful as I am today. So my advice is to put a little bit of your money at risk in the market. Don't put as much money as I did. Like don't put 2/3 of your money at risk, but maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000 that you've saved up, and do all of the stupid things that you want to do. Gamble with it. Like do all of the stuff. And you know what? Maybe this is not great advice, and maybe you should put most of what you have at risk just so that you can really feel the pain. But I don't know that that's completely necessary in order to learn the lesson. My point is, learn the lesson if you feel the need to try to make money quick or whatever. All these people online these days are talking about how much money they're making and all this stuff. But if you look at the numbers, there really aren't that many people that have a huge amount of money. There are fewer millionaires than there are people who don't have $1 million. And, get rich quick schemes usually are not reality. So I think it's a very, very important lesson for you to learn early on so that you can mature into a much better investor. And I'm not saying specifically go out with the goal of losing money, but I am saying, try it, be a bit risky, pick individual stocks, try to prove to yourself that, you think you're better than the market, and then learn the lesson that you are not better than the market. Now, it could end up that you just get extremely lucky and that you do make a ton of money, but I think that's unlikely to be the outcome if you, go in without much knowledge about what you're doing. But yeah, look up like price to earnings ratios, look up all these definitions, go on Investopedia, learn a few terms about the stock market, just so you kind of understand what a company does and what all of these numbers mean. And watch some financial YouTubers. Those are all really good little bits of advice in order to kind of build your knowledge about investing, saving, and all of those things. My second point on, what should you do with the money when you're younger? And I think that you should actually spend some of your money on doing fun things. This is something that I somewhat regret now. And I was such a saver. I just saved all of my money and I did not spend it doing fun things. On one hand, this is really good because I built up that saving muscle, and a lot of the money that I saved back then has turned into a little bit more money today that I would not have had if I wasn't so diligent with my savings. But I did really deprive myself of doing some fun things in like my final year of high school, during university. So I do think it's important to allocate a portion of your money to having fun, to going on dates, to going on trips if your school is doing trips, to doing all of those things. You know, the money is, it's important to save, and it's very important to save early because every dollar that you earn when you're 20 is worth, if properly invested, about $20 to $30 when you're retired. And that multiple decreases as you age, and you end up having to save a lot more money in order to retire with whatever your end goal number is. So the money you make when you're young is very valuable, and I really got that into my head. But I realized what else is really valuable too are experiences in life and enjoying time with your friends and doing stupid things. Like, go out there and take risks. I was recently looking back at like some old videos that me and my friends made in high school. I was super obsessed with just taking videos of what my friends and I were doing. And looking back on it, I'm so glad that I did, because it kind of it reminded me of all these really fun memories that I had, and it helped me remember like all the good stuff that happened in high school and everything that we did together. And it's just really, really cool to have had those experiences. So, you know, another thing I recommend is take videos. Like, take videos, take photos of what you're doing. Like, it's, keep memories of what you're doing, because I think you'll come to appreciate them a lot the older that you get. And this goes for high school and university, and I kind of got lazy with it in university. I do still have some videos, but not as many as I would like. And yeah, it's so those are my recommendations. Spend some money and take lots of videos, and don't be a complete prude. You know, go out, do things with your money, spend your money, but build that saving muscle. So I would recommend saving more money than you're spending, if at all possible. All right, so the final part of this question, the person asks, should you gain knowledge individually rather than give money to your financial advisor? And the answer to this question is yes. You should gain knowledge individually. The layers in finance can be extremely deep and never ending. People will spend their entire lives dedicated to figuring out how money works and trying to optimize what to do with their money and all of that stuff. And I think it's extremely important to understand how it works. At the end of the day, I always personally try to never sell the stocks that I buy. I will try to live off of loans and then pay those loans off rather than sell stocks. Because if you've been holding stocks for a couple of years, there's a good chance you'll have capital gains when you sell, which means you have to pay taxes on those capital gains. So the way I like to live my life, and this doesn't mean this is how you have to do it, is that once I've bought stocks, never sell. That's kind of one of my core investing principles. Not only is this more tax advantageous, but this money requires a lot of discipline to protect, because it'll likely make up a good part of your retirement. The worst thing that I can imagine is being old and broke. So financial literacy is extremely important, and I think taxes are an extremely underrated part of understanding financial literacy. So yes, learn as much as you can. Yes, go to a financial advisor, learn from them, understand enough to know if your financial advisor is giving you good advice or not. And lastly, make sure you understand how taxes work, because that can be very beneficial or very non-beneficial depending on how you play that. So those are my 2 cents. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you found this interesting, and I'll see you next time.